If you own a Chevrolet Silverado, you already know you've got one of America's most capable trucks. But even the Silverado has its limits, and these 12 mistakes are exactly how good owners turn a great truck into an expensive problem. Number 12, ignoring the AFM lifter tick. Let's start with the mistake that has cost more Silverado owners more money than almost anything else on this list. And that's continuing to drive when you hear the AFM lifter tick coming from your 5.3-liter or 6.2-liter Ecotec 3V8. That tick-tick-tick sound coming from the top end of your engine is not something to dismiss or drive through. According to reliability data from sources including RonertParkTransmission.com and RaymondChevyGMC.com, the active fuel management system in 2014 through 2024. Silverados creates uneven pressure in the lubrication system that leads to lifter collapse, and continuing to drive on a ticking lifter turns what starts as a $1,500 repair into an $8,000 or more engine replacement. The moment you hear that tick, the correct move is to stop driving the truck hard and get it to a mechanic immediately. A compression test and oil pressure check will tell you how far the damage has progressed and what your options are before the situation becomes catastrophic. If this kind of straight talk is helping you take better care of your Silverado, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more people find this before they make a costly mistake. Number 11, skipping oil checks between changes. Here's a mistake that seems minor until it isn't, and that's never checking the oil level between oil changes on a 5.3-liter or 6.2-liter V8 Silverado. These engines are known to consume oil between changes due to the AFM cylinder deactivation system. And according to reliability data from sources including RonertParkTransmission.com and RaymondChevyGMC.com, running a 5.3-liter or 6.2-liter. Silverado low on oil is one of the fastest ways to cause catastrophic lifter failure and engine damage. The AFM system depends on consistent oil pressure to function correctly, and a quarter too low is enough to compromise that pressure in ways that accelerate wear dramatically. The fix is simple and free. Check the oil every 1,000 miles on these engines, not just at oil change intervals. If you're consistently losing more than a quart per 1,000 miles, that's a signal worth investigating before it becomes a much larger problem. Number 10, following the lifetime fluid myth on the 8-speed transmission. This next mistake is one that a lot of Silverado owners make because of a phrase that sounds reassuring but is actually misleading. And that phrase is lifetime fluid on the 8L 98-speed automatic transmission. According to reliability data from sources including RaymondChevyGMC.com and Raybuck.com, the 8L90 transmission in 2015 through 2019, Silverados is particularly vulnerable to fluid breakdown when owners follow GM's most optimistic service language. The fluid breaks down under real-world use, causing harsh shifts, shuddering, and transmission replacements that run $4,500 or more by 80,000 miles on trucks that were never serviced. A realistic service interval for the 8L90 under normal use is around 45,000 miles, and if you're towing or hauling regularly, that interval should be shorter, not longer. Fleet maintenance guides from Ryder, NMC, and commercial truck operators consistently recommend adjusting fluid service intervals to reflect actual operating conditions rather than following the most optimistic schedule available. Change the transmission fluid on a schedule that reflects how you actually use the Silverado, and the 8L90 will reward you with years of reliable service instead of a repair bill that rivals a used car payment. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more straight talk about keeping your Silverado running strong. We cover this every week. Number 9. Towing heavy without upgrading your maintenance schedule. Here's a mistake that catches a lot of Silverado owners off guard, and that's towing near the truck's maximum capacity on a regular basis without adjusting the maintenance schedule to match the increased workload. The Silverado is a capable towing platform, but towing near maximum capacity puts significantly more stress on the transmission, differential, cooling system, and brakes than normal driving does. According to sources including riders' preventative maintenance tips and fleet maintenance calendars from sources like Simply Fleet and NMC, severe towing use effectively doubles the wear rate on these components compared to light-duty driving, and the standard maintenance schedule simply doesn't account for that. When you're towing regularly, differential fluid should be changed every 30,000 miles and transmission fluid every 40,000 miles, rather than following the standard intervals. The cooling system deserves particular attention. A tow vehicle that runs hot repeatedly will develop head gasket and water pump issues that are expensive to address and entirely preventable with proper maintenance. Number 8. Ignoring frame and underbody rust. This mistake has ended the life of Silverados that still had perfectly good engines and drivetrains, and that's ignoring frame and underbody rust until it becomes a structural problem. According to reliability data from sources including Raybuck.com and owner complaint patterns documented across multiple sources, Silverados operated in Rust Belt states and on salted winter roads are particularly vulnerable to frame rail corrosion, brake line rust-through, and fuel tank mount deterioration. These aren't cosmetic issues. They're structural and safety concerns that can total an otherwise healthy truck when they're allowed to progress unchecked. The fix is straightforward and inexpensive compared to the alternative. Rinse the undercarriage after winter driving and off-road use, do an annual inspection of the frame rails, brake lines, and fuel tank mounts, and apply a rust-inhibiting undercoating to vulnerable areas before corrosion gets a foothold. According to sources like NMC CAT's Truck Maintenance Guidelines and IDFI's Truck Maintenance Checklist, underbody inspection and corrosion prevention are among the most important and most overlooked items in any truck maintenance routine. Don't wait until you see visible rust on the surface. By then, the damage underneath is often already significant. If you're finding this helpful, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video. We cover this kind of stuff all the time. Number 7. Using cheap aftermarket fuel pumps. Here's a mistake that seems like a smart way to save money in the moment and turns into an expensive lesson about why OEM parts matter on a truck you depend on. That mistake is replacing a failed fuel pump with a cheap aftermarket unit instead of an AC Delco OEM module. According to reliability data from sources including Zuby.com and owner complaint patterns documented across multiple sources, cheap $100 to $150 fuel pump modules from discount online retailers fail within months on Silverados, stranding you, causing lien codes, and forcing you to pay for the repair twice when the cheap unit fails again. The OEM AC Delco module costs more upfront, but lasts the life of the truck. The AC Delco OEM fuel pump module for a Silverado runs $500 to $900 depending on the year and configuration, significantly more than the cheap alternatives. But it's built to the same specification as the original unit, it fits correctly, and it lasts. According to fleet maintenance guides that consistently recommend OEM equivalent parts for critical systems, the fuel pump is not the place to cut corners on a truck you depend on for work or daily transportation. Pay for the right part once and move on, or pay for the wrong part twice and learn the lesson the expensive way. Number 6, never flushing the brake fluid. This next mistake is one that most Silverado owners have never even thought about, and it's one that can lead to one of the most dangerous failures a truck can experience. That mistake is never flushing the brake fluid. Moisture-contaminated brake fluid over time corrodes ABS modules and calipers. And while catastrophic brake failures are rare, neglected brake fluid maintenance is a documented contributor to ABS module failures that cost $1,500 or more to repair on high-mileage Silverados. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture from the atmosphere over time, lowering the boiling point of the fluid and accelerating corrosion of the metal components it contacts. A brake fluid flush every 2 to 3 years is cheap insurance against ABS module failure and brake system corrosion that can cost thousands to address properly. Fleet maintenance guides from sources like Ryder and Truck Stop consistently list brake fluid service as a critical maintenance item that gets overlooked because the brakes feel fine right up until they don't. Flush it on schedule and keep one of the most important safety systems on your Silverado working the way it was designed to work. Number 5, letting the coolant go beyond its service life. Here's a mistake that sneaks up on Silverado owners gradually, and by the time it becomes obvious, the damage is often already done. That mistake is running the factory DexCool coolant beyond its service life without replacement. According to reliability data from sources including monstermotors.com and raymondchevygmc.com, running DexCool beyond 150,000 miles or 5 years, whichever comes first, allows the coolant to become acidic as its corrosion inhibitors deplete. Acidic coolant attacks aluminum components, including the radiator, water pump, and cylinder head gaskets in ways that cause expensive failures that a timely coolant flush would have prevented entirely. The symptoms of neglected coolant aren't always obvious until a component fails. A water pump that fails unexpectedly, a radiator that develops pinhole leaks, or a head gasket that starts seeping are all potential consequences of running degraded DexCool past its service life. According to sources including NMC CAT's preventative maintenance tips and ALLDATA's OEM service documentation, a coolant flush costs a fraction of what a water pump replacement or head gasket repair costs. Hit that like button if this video is helping you take better care of your Silverado, and subscribe so you never miss a video like this one. Number 4. Clearing warning lights without fixing the root cause. This next mistake is one that seems like a reasonable shortcut in the moment and creates expensive problems down the road. That mistake is using a code reader to clear check engine lights and warning lights without actually diagnosing and fixing what triggered them. According to reliability data from sources including raymondchevygmc.com and owner complaint patterns documented across multiple sources, ignored misfires on Silverados destroy catalytic converters that cost $1,500 or more to replace, and ignored oil pressure warnings cause engine seizures that end the life of trucks that had plenty of miles left in them. The warning light is the truck telling you something is wrong. Clearing the code without fixing the problem doesn't fix the problem, it just turns off the messenger. The correct response to any warning light on a Silverado is diagnosis first, repair second, and code clearing only after the underlying issue has been addressed. Fleet maintenance guides and sources like ALLDATA's OEM service documentation consistently emphasize that warning light diagnosis is a critical step in preventing minor issues from becoming major failures. Treat every warning light as the truck asking for help, because that's exactly what it is. And ignoring that request is one of the most expensive habits a Silverado owner can develop. Number 3. Overloading the bed without suspension support. Here's a mistake that's common among Silverado owners who trust the truck's reputation a little too much, and that's regularly hauling near or above your truck's payload rating without any suspension upgrades to support that load. The Silverado's payload rating, often 1,750 to 2,200 pounds, depending on your specific configuration, is printed on the door jamb sticker, and it exists for a reason. According to reliability data from sources including RaymondChevigMC.com and Fleet Maintenance Resources, consistently loading the bed near or above maximum capacity without helper springs or an air suspension upgrade bottoms out the rear springs, damages frame mounts, and accelerates rear axle wear in ways that show up as expensive repairs on high-mileage trucks. The rear suspension on a stock Silverado was designed for occasional heavy loads, not sustained maximum capacity hauling on a daily basis. If your work requires regular heavy bed loads, the investment in helper springs, or a load-leveling air suspension system is significantly cheaper than the suspension and frame repairs that chronic overloading eventually produces. According to fleet maintenance calendars from sources like Simply Fleet and NMC, proper load management is one of the most important factors in extending the working life of any truck's suspension and drivetrain components. Respect the payload rating, upgrade the suspension if your use case demands it, and the Silverado will hold up to the work you're asking it to do. Number 2. Skipping differential fluid changes entirely. This mistake is one that a lot of Silverado owners make because the differential is out of sight and out of mind. And that's never servicing the front and rear differential fluid over the life of the truck. According to reliability data from sources including RaymondChevigMC.com and MonsterMotors.com, the GML10 synthetic differential fluid in Silverado front and rear differentials breaks down by around 60,000 miles under normal use. And on trucks that tow or go off-road regularly, that breakdown happens even sooner. Running degraded differential fluid causes gear wear, bearing failure, and axle rebuilds that run $3,000 or more on a truck that would have been fine with a $150 fluid service. The differential is one of those components that gives no warning before it fails catastrophically. There's no check engine light for differential fluid condition, and the only way to know it needs service is to follow a maintenance schedule that accounts for it. A realistic service interval for differential fluid on a Silverado that sees towing or four-wheel drive use is every 30,000 to 45,000 miles. Fleet maintenance guides from sources like Motor Fleet Maintenance and Ryder consistently list differential fluid service as a critical item that gets skipped because the differential doesn't make noise or throw codes when the fluid is degraded. Service it on schedule, and you'll never have to think about it. Number 1. Assuming the Silverado's reputation does the maintenance for you. Here's the biggest mistake on this entire list, and it's the one that underlies almost every other mistake we've talked about today. That mistake is assuming that because it's a Silverado, it doesn't need consistent, serious maintenance attention. The Silverado's reputation for capability and durability is real and it's earned. But that reputation was built by owners who respected the truck, stayed on top of fluid intervals, inspected the frame and underbody, and treated it like the precision machine it actually is. The trucks that reach 250,000 miles and beyond are the ones with documented service histories and owners who paid attention to warning signs before they became major failures. According to owner feedback compiled across multiple reliability databases and long-term ownership forums, consistent scheduled maintenance performed on time is a major factor in how long any vehicle lasts. The AFM lifter failures, transmission problems, and cooling system issues we've covered today are all significantly more likely to occur on trucks maintained on the most optimistic possible schedule rather than one that reflects how the truck was actually used. Respect the maintenance schedule, pay attention to what your Silverado is telling you through its warning lights and sounds, and use NHTSA's free VIN recall lookup at nhtsa.gov/recalls to check for any open recalls on your specific truck. Here's the bottom line. The Chevrolet Silverado is one of the most capable and proven trucks on the road today, but it earns that reputation through proper care, not in spite of neglect. The 12 mistakes we covered today, from ignoring the AFM lifter tick and skipping oil checks, to clearing warning lights without fixing the cause and assuming the truck's reputation does the maintenance for you, are exactly how good owners turn a great truck into an expensive repair bill. The fix for every single one of these mistakes is straightforward. Stay on top of your maintenance, know your specific generation's weak points, and respect the limits GM engineered into the truck. Hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll keep bringing you the honest information you need to get the most out of your Silverado for years to come.